Hi there, and welcome to a late summer YouTube live. If you are watching on catch up, just scroll through 3 or 4 minutes where I will be starting. There's going to be a short pause now. And if you are with me watching at the moment, then you've still got time to make yourself a cup of tea or pour yourself something refreshing. And I will be back in just 3 or 4 minutes or so. And it's really, really lovely to have you with me tonight. See you just in a few minutes. Good evening. Excuse me. It's 7 o'clock. It's Friday, so that must mean it's time for a late summer YouTube live. Let's take a deep breath for a moment, shall we? Relax your shoulders. Just have a little look around you where you are. Smile. And let's be thankful for a moment for each other as we gather together. It's so good to be with you. Thank you so much for joining me. As I said in my mailing today, these live stream sessions have provided some of my happiest moments of connection over 2 quite strange and vivid years. Hopefully it's all a little less strange and vivid for you and me now. And I'm pleased to say that my own health continues to strengthen. So thank you so much for your good wishes and prayers on that. I was up at Greenbelt last weekend. I don't know if any others of you were. And it was just so good to see people I hadn't seen in the flesh for a long, long time. But we do find ourselves right now nearing the threshold of the season of autumn, don't we? Looking out the window there, it's almost getting dark already. And for me, that's always a swirling, misty mix of emotions. It's a bit of a nervous back to school, new starts, had to say goodbye to summer vibe, mixed with the anticipation of wrapping up in scarves and jumpers and tramping through leaves and drinking hot chocolate and going on Ode to Autumn walking retreats in Winchester, of course, if you can get here. Thank you so much for many replies so far. If you've written in today to book a place and you haven't heard back from me yet, I will be writing back to you over the weekend, and don't worry, you will have a place. If you haven't yet written in, write in as soon as you can, because those places are going quite quickly. Anyway, so I thought it would be good this evening to pause. And before we charge headlong into what's next, into a busy term ahead for many of us, to gather up what has been this summer and to practice being where we are now. So I would like to light a candle, as we always do, to welcome the presence of God into kind of the swirl of emotions we might be feeling right now, whether that's about kind of the season or the season we're in, or just where we find ourselves. And as we do that, why not close your eyes just for a moment and pay attention to what you are feeling right now. Just notice what's going on within you. Might have been something from the day, something you're anticipating. And remembering that we all have such a generous kind of capacity, a spaciousness within our soul. We don't have to chase those feelings away, but can welcome that feeling we identify, whatever it is, and just sit with it for a few moments. You might actually like to whisper, welcome back to school fear, or welcome autumn excitement, or welcome sorrow, or welcome joy, whatever it is that you're just feeling right now. And when you're ready, why not offer that feeling over to God and welcome God's presence, like the light of the candle that we've lit. Welcome God's presence and just sit with you and within you, within all that you are feeling, all that you are tonight. And when you're ready, it would be lovely. We usually start our mini series just with a line in the chat that begins, "Here I am, ... Don't worry if you haven't worked out how to use the chat or you prefer just to stay in the moment. But if you're willing to, just write one line that says, "Here I am," and then just a phrase or just one line that describes where you find yourself right now. It'd be really lovely to share that as a collective. Here I am, from this community that's gathered right across the world. And it's just so lovely to see your names and the places that you are tuning in from tonight. Hi, Christine in Iowa. Lovely to have you with us. Hi, Anne in Gloucestershire. Hi, Elsie. Here I am, excited to be back with you all. Here I am, peaceful Linda. Just put one line in the chat. Here I am. Here I am, feeling grateful for rest and restoration. Hilary, thank you. Here I am, recovering from a nasty accident. Praise God, Elizabeth. Get well soon. Here I am, sad today, Miriam. Peace be with you. Here I am, both anxious and hopeful, Glenna. Here I am, expectant. Here I am with positivity. Here I am, more hopeful today. Here I am, staying with the moment. We welcome those emotions, those feelings, those experiences as we sit with them and invite God to sit within them too. Here I am at peace and thank you. Here I am wondering about the coming weeks, and just let those scroll up. Ready for old meetings and new possibilities. Helen, fantastic. I'd love to share with you a poem by the wonderful Elizabeth Rooney, who I often quote in these sessions. Patty, her daughter, sometimes tunes in. So hi, Patty, if you are watching. This poem is called Storing September. And I thought it was a really, really lovely way just to become present to a month we sometimes kind of face with the brace position. How can we embrace it? Here's Storing September. You ask me what I did today. I could pretend and say, I don't remember. But no, I'll tell you what I did today. I stored September, sat in the sun and let the sun sink in. Let all the warmth of it caress my skin. When winter comes, my skin will still remember the day I stored September. And then my eyes, I filled them with the deepest, bluest skies and all the traceries of wasps and butterflies. When winter comes, my eyes will still remember the day they stored September. And there was cricket song to fill my ears, and the taste of grapes, and the deep purple of them, and asters like small clumps of sky. You know how much I love them. That's what I did today, and I know why. Just simply for the love of it, I stored September. The wonderful Elizabeth Rooney. Isn't that good? I like the idea of storing, bringing in the harvest, gathering up the goodness and fruitfulness of the season. And I'd love us for a few moments to kind of gather up summer, if you like, to gather up something of its goodness and experience, even as we prepare to say farewell to it. And I'll mention a couple of things from my summer audio to help us to do that. And if you haven't yet listened to my summer audio, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry. You don't need to have done so to appreciate the next couple of minutes. But I talked in one section about the immersive nature of summer. And I mentioned asking my son about when he'd been able to fully relax on the holiday he took with some friends after his kind of quite stressful A-level exams this year, because it takes a while, doesn't it, for us to relax. And he said it was when he found himself floating in the sea one evening, a few days in, lying on his back, looking up at the stars that were beginning to emerge, um, lifted up in a sense, buoyed by the sea, held there, which was a really lovely image that he gave to me, really. And I've held on to that all summer. And I just wondered if there was a point at which you found yourself able to do that this summer, whether you went away or not, whether you swam in the sea or not, metaphorically speaking, whether there was a point at which you were able to really yield, to surrender positively, if you like, to relax your whole body and to be here and nowhere else in that wonderful kind of moment of flow in the present. I'd like to invite you just to visualize that moment, or a moment that came close to that from this summer. It doesn't need to be profound. It may have been a moment of play, or you may have been in company. It's absolutely fine. But just go back there in your mind's eye for a few moments now. Almost kind of breathing that back in, the goodness that may already seem like kind of quite a distant memory. That feeling of, gosh, did I even experience that holiday or that break or that day away or that time of peace in the garden or whatever it was? And I'd like you just for a moment to give thanks for it, to give thanks for that moment. Maybe it would be really, really lovely if you're able to just write one line in the chat that summarized that moment for you. It'd just be so lovely to see a few experiences that you've had of that sense of kind of surrender positively to the moment this summer. So if you would like to share something in the chat, please do for the next 20 seconds or so. Hi, in the meantime, to Nancy in Canada, feeling stressed, but glad to take a break from your long to-do list. To Lisa, sheltering from the storm. Miriam, thank you, walking by the sea, blue and gold. Freedom of swimming in cooling, crystal clear sea. The sea is a great friend, isn't it, in terms of that kind of sense of connecting with something larger and that calm that can kind of come with being there. What else? Bathed in sunlight on your patio, Elizabeth, paddling in the sea for the first time in 3 years. Wow, that kind of reconnection, and sharing a long walk with an old friend not seen for years, staring at stunning pink poppies. A poppy in the sunny garden half an hour after your mum died, Heather. Wow, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Playing with grandchildren in a swimming pool, special time with my son and his girlfriend, kayaking, paddleboarding, swimming in the sea, and playing on a rope swing. Rope swings are wonderful, aren't they, to kind of just release our playfulness. Time of bonding with your daughter from the US in Cornwall, while staying with your sister Anne. Thank you. Sunset reflections at low tide on West Wittering Beach. Spending time in the hammock, Nancy. That's good to hear. Listening to the moan of the seals on a deserted beach. Emerging from reliving past trauma into the present moment and the reassuring objects and presence of your trusted companion, Glenna. Thank you. Lovely drive to Amana Lake and seeing 7 ruddy turnstones in late afternoon sunshine there. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing some of those. Just keep them coming as they come to you, surrounded by flowers and the Perigard. Irene, forgive me for not knowing what that is. Storing sun and blue skies at Castle Howard yesterday in the company of a friend. Wonder if pufferfish standard. Brilliant. I wonder if it needs to take a whole year before we allow ourselves those kind of connections again, because they do something to the soul, don't they? I also talked about how summer can be a fluid season by its very nature. Birds gliding on thermals, tall grasses swaying, crops rippling like ocean waves, clouds drifting freely, water tumbling, light cascading through leaves, fruit swelling, butterflies floating, and bees bumbling. There's a flow to it all, isn't there? And we can find our flow within it when we connect to it, can't we? I think that's something that is kind of really, spoken to me this summer. Maybe we're a little less forced. That flow is less forced, less hurried or tense, a bit more relaxed. And as we find that flow, we can find our flow with God too, can't we? Because even though we have fairly rigid expectations of who God is or is meant to be, the Bible, of course, tells us that God is breath and air and wind. God is light shining in darkness. God is water welling up inside us and overflowing to the world around us. These are very fluid, beautiful metaphors. And I wonder how that affects the nature of how we reach out for God and how God reaches out for us. One simple exercise I suggested in the audio was to bring your attention to your breathing, which you might like to do now, and to really relax in this moment. And simply to begin to imagine that God is doing the breathing for you, is breathing through you, breathing you into life in each moment. So just for a few moments now, perhaps with eyes closed again, just yield to that. Yield to that. Relax your body. Lie back metaphorically as if you're floating in the sea like my son, and be held up, supported, buoyed, loved, breathed through by God in this moment. And finally, I mentioned in the audio about having a kit bag for the soul, just to try really to think imaginatively about what really matters, what we want to carry with us. And in the moments of space and rest you sometimes get during the summer, I know you don't always get it, but you sometimes get to be intentional about how to use some of that time in a way that really feeds the soul, brings you to life. I said about having a pair of binoculars for watching birds, and also having a French-English Bible, because it gives me just a different slant on perhaps familiar passages. And I remember a lovely conversation I had with Mercy, my daughter, when I was away in France. We were talking about Jesus's post-Easter appearances. She was asking me about them, and we looked up the words that the disciples spoke to Jesus, not knowing that this was Jesus, on the road to Emmaus, when they urged him to stay with us, for the day is almost over and it is getting dark. So we just looked it up, and it's a lovely line. Reste avec nous, forgive my French. Reste avec nous, le jour baisse déjà et la nuit approche. So we learnt that line, and it's a lovely one to say to God. Reste avec nous, as the light is falling here now, and as maybe we're kind of sensing, wow, stuff's going to be closing in on us this autumn. Rest avec nous, stay with us. Stay with us. But anyway, I digress. I wonder, going forward into perhaps what might be a busier autumn, whether there's one thing in particular you'd like to remind yourself to carry with you from summer, to put in the kit bag for the soul, if you like. It might be a hobby you've taken up or reconnected with, or a practice like letting God breathe through you, standing by the sea, or a bit of wisdom you've read, perhaps a book that you've connected with, or a place that you'd like to return to that's really stirred your soul. Something you can carry with you in that kit bag, something that helps bring you to life. Just like to give you 20 seconds now to think about that. And if you're able to share again in the chat one thing that you'd really like to take with you, then please do, because it's just so enriching to see what other people are experiencing and carrying with them. Anyone else for a pair of binoculars or a French English Bible? That's my little French English Bible there. And that's the book of poetry Storing September from Elizabeth Rooney that I was reading from earlier. How much joy from growing vegetables, especially the cucumbers. So exciting, amazing. We all need to be growing some veg now, I think, don't we, in the fruit and veg in the gardens? Anything else? What else might you be taking with you? Esther Duval's book, The White Stone, about letting go. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miriam. These kind of ideas are actually really inspiring and helpful. I shall look that up. I haven't read it. Anything else? I've been reading Susan Cain's book, Bittersweet, which is a really interesting reflection on kind of the way sorrow and joy mingle and meet and kind of accompany each other through life. Susan Cain. Checking out Skyview to see what stars and planets are there in the night sky, Simon. Yeah, thank you. That was one feature of our summer, actually standing out in skies, under skies that were not polluted by light, and seeing the Milky Way just glimmering above, which was really, really magical for the kids. Anything else that you're going to be bringing with you? Some wisdom, some hobby, something. Mary Oliver's poetry, and thank you. Please do connect with Mary Oliver's poetry if you haven't ever, because it is deeply connective and inspiring. As you continue to think about that, let's say the Lord's Prayer together as we all. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. I'd like to share with you one more poem before we finish, which is, I think, very appropriate for us for where we find ourselves here at the end of the hottest, driest summer since 1976, and all that goes with that, knowing that it's climate change, and also feeling in a sense that it could be an arid time to come politically, economically, all of that. Isaiah tells us, God shall make you like a spring of water whose waters never fail. God shall make you like a spring of water whose waters never fail. And so with that in mind, this is a poem by Denise Levertov called The Fountain. Don't say there is no water to solace the dryness at our hearts. I have seen the fountain springing out of the rock wall and you drinking there. And I too, before your eyes, found footholds and climbed to drink the cool water. The woman of that place, shading her eyes, frowned as she watched, but not because she grudged the water, only because she was waiting to see we drank our fill and were refreshed. Don't say there is no water. That fountain is there among its scalloped green and grey stones. It is still there and always there, with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us up and out through the rock. I love that. I absolutely love that. Denise Levertov, The Fountain. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been a while, hasn't it? And it just feels so refreshing to be back together in each other's company. I hope you have time this weekend to do a little storing of September and to drink from the fountain, for I have seen the fountain springing out of the rock wall and you drinking there. I will see you next Friday at the same time, 7 o'clock, if you would like to join me. And until then, drink deep and please go well. Bless you.